Welcome back to Days of Our... Today we will learn about the devastating truth that's about to rock Salem when Dr. Sarah Horton-Kyriakis uncovers one of the most elaborate deceptions in recent memory. Sophia Choi's shocking lie about her newborn daughter. The unraveling web of deception, the intricate web of lies surrounding Sophia Choi's pregnancy, has been meticulously crafted over months. But now the walls are beginning to crumble around her carefully constructed facade. As a seasoned medical professional with years of experience at Salem University Hospital, Dr. Sarah Horton possesses the expertise and instinct to recognize when something doesn't add up in a patient's medical history. Her sharp analytical mind, honed through countless years of treating expectant mothers and newborns, immediately detected inconsistencies that would escape the notice of ordinary residents of Salem. The revelation began innocuously enough during what seemed like a routine conversation between Sarah and the Black family. Brady Black, still reeling from the emotional turbulence of recent adoption proceedings, had confided in Sarah about the mysterious circumstances surrounding the birth and immediate placement of what he believed to be his granddaughter. Rachel Black, Brady's daughter who has been under Sarah's compassionate medical care, had also shared fragments of information that painted an incomplete picture of the adoption process. Sarah's medical detective work begins armed with her medical training and an intuitive sense that something was fundamentally wrong with Sophia's story. Sarah embarked on what would become a methodical investigation into the truth. Her first step involved accessing Sophia's comprehensive medical records, documents that contained crucial information about the pregnancy that had been carefully documented throughout the prenatal period. These records, maintained with the precision that Salem University Hospital demands, would prove to be the key to unlocking Sophia's deception. When Sarah meticulously reviewed the detailed charts and medical documentation, her worst suspicions were immediately confirmed in the most definitive way possible. The medical records clearly indicated that Sophia Choi had been carrying a male fetus throughout her pregnancy, not the female infant that she had claimed to have delivered and placed for adoption. This discrepancy wasn't a matter of interpretation or medical uncertainty. It was a clear, documented contradiction that revealed the extent of Sophia's elaborate deception. The confrontation strategy, understanding the delicate nature of the situation and the potential ramifications for multiple families involved, Sarah carefully planned her approach to confronting Sophia about this medical impossibility. During the pivotal week of July 28th to August 1st, Sarah would orchestrate what appeared to be a congratulatory visit to the young mother, using the pretext of offering professional medical support and celebrating what she believed to be a successful delivery and adoption process. Sarah's strategy demonstrated her years of experience in handling sensitive medical and personal situations. Rather than immediately accusing Sophia of deception, she would approach the conversation with apparent warmth and professional courtesy, expressing genuine joy about the supposed smooth delivery and successful adoption placement. This diplomatic approach would allow Sarah to observe Sophia's reactions while gradually introducing questions about the discrepancy in the baby's gender. The experienced doctor knew that Sophia's body language and emotional responses would provide crucial information about the truth behind the adoption story. Sarah anticipated that panic would be evident in Sophia's eyes the moment the gender discrepancy was mentioned, and she prepared herself to carefully observe every subtle reaction that might reveal additional layers of deception. Sophia's desperate defense mechanisms faced with Sarah's pointed questions about the gender inconsistency, Sophia would be forced to rely on the legal documentation and cover story that had been carefully crafted by Melinda Trask. Melinda, whose reputation for questionable adoption practices has become well known throughout Salem's legal community, had likely anticipated this exact scenario and prepared Sophia with plausible explanations for any medical discrepancies that might arise. Sophia's defensive strategy would likely involve claiming that her previous medical records contained errors, attributing the gender discrepancy to administrative mistakes at the hospital. She might elaborate on the chaos and budget cuts that have affected Salem University Hospital's record-keeping systems, suggesting that such mistakes have become more common due to understaffing and organizational upheaval. This explanation, while superficially plausible, would do little to satisfy Sarah's medical expertise and professional skepticism. The desperation in Sophia's voice and the obvious anxiety in her demeanor would only serve to confirm Sarah's growing suspicions about the entire adoption story. Every attempt Sophia makes to explain away the medical inconsistencies would likely create additional questions and reveal new aspects of the deception that she hadn't anticipated having to address. The broader implications of discovery Sarah's investigation into Sophia's deception carries implications that extend far beyond a simple medical error or administrative mistake. Her growing closeness to Brady Black adds a personal dimension to her professional obligation to uncover the truth. As Rachel's doctor and someone who has become emotionally invested in the Black family's well-being, Sarah feels a particular responsibility to ensure that they are not being manipulated or deceived about such a significant family matter. The connection between Sarah and Brady has been developing against the backdrop of Sarah's complicated relationship with her estranged husband, Xander Cook Kyriakis. While their marriage remains in shambles due to various betrayals and conflicts, Sarah has found herself drawn to Brady's stability and genuine concern for his family's welfare. This personal investment makes her determination to uncover the truth about Sophia's baby even more intense and focused. Melinda Trask's shadow over the deception. The involvement of Melinda Trask in Sophia's adoption scheme adds another layer of complexity to Sarah's investigation. Melinda's history of questionable legal practices, particularly her involvement in previous adoption scandals and deceptive legal arrangements, makes her participation in this case particularly suspicious. Sarah's knowledge of Melinda's reputation and past misconduct would naturally make her skeptical of any adoption arrangement that bears Melinda's legal stamp of approval. Melinda's motivation for involving herself in Sophia's situation stems partly from her own traumatic history of giving up a child for adoption, creating an emotional investment that clouds her professional judgment. However, her pattern of bending legal and ethical rules to achieve desired outcomes has created a trail of damaged families and broken trust throughout Salem's legal community. The mystery of baby Tesoro. As Sarah continues her investigation, she may begin to piece together additional clues about the true location and identity of Sophia's actual child. The baby known as Tesoro, currently being cared for by Leo Stark and Javi Hernandez, represents a crucial piece of the puzzle that Sarah has yet to fully understand. If Sarah were to witness Sophia interacting with or showing unusual interest in this particular infant, it could provide the final confirmation she needs to expose the entire deceptive scheme. The emotional bond that Sophia likely feels toward Tesoro, despite her attempts to maintain the pretense of having given birth to a different child entirely, could prove to be her ultimate downfall. Any display of maternal attachment or recognition could alert Sarah to the true nature of the relationship between Sophia and the baby being raised by Leo and Javi. The approaching climax, the accumulation of evidence and inconsistencies in Sophia's story, is building toward an inevitable confrontation that will force the truth into the open. Sarah's medical expertise, combined with her personal investment in protecting the Black family from deception, makes her the ideal person to unravel this complex web of lies and manipulation. The revelation of Sophia's deception will likely have far-reaching consequences for multiple families throughout Salem, affecting not only the immediate participants in the adoption scheme, but also the broader community that has been touched by the ripple effects of this elaborate charade. Sarah's role as the catalyst for this revelation positions her as a central figure in what promises to be one of the most dramatic and emotionally charged storylines in recent days of our lives' history. As the truth inches closer to exposure, viewers can anticipate shocking revelations, emotional confrontations, and the ultimate unraveling of one of Salem's most intricate deceptions, all orchestrated through the determined investigation of Dr. Sarah Horton Kyriakis. Next, Days of Our Lives recap. Tensions rise in Salem, July 28, 2025. The sun rose over Salem on a sweltering Monday morning, July 28, 2025, casting a golden glow across the town's cobblestone streets and grand mansions. The heat was oppressive, a fitting backdrop for the simmering tensions and hidden agendas that were about to unfold. In the heart of this close-knit yet drama-filled community, secrets were brewing, alliances were shifting, and the past was clawing its way back into the present. For the residents of Salem, particularly those tied to the powerful Kyriakis and DiMera families, this day would mark the beginning of a storm that could change everything. Marlena's haunting dream and a bittersweet discovery. Dr. Marlena Evans, Salem's beloved psychiatrist, awoke in her cozy bedroom, her heart heavy with the echoes of a vivid dream. In it, She was transported back over 30 years to a time when she was known as the enigmatic Queen of the Night. The dream was so real. The glittering chandeliers, the rustle of her elegant gown, the weight of a crown she hadn't worn in decades. Her younger self stood tall, commanding attention, yet beneath the regal facade, there was a flicker of vulnerability. As the dream faded, Marlena's eyes fluttered open, and she lay still, staring at the ceiling, her mind tangled in memories of a life she'd long left behind. Pushing aside the covers, Marlena sat up, her silver hair catching the morning light filtering through the curtains. She felt a pang of nostalgia but also a quiet resolve. As she reached for her glasses on the nightstand, her fingers brushed against a folded piece of paper. It was a note from her daughter, Belle, written in her familiar, elegant script. The words brought a soft smile to Marlena's lips. Belle was back at court, navigating her demanding career as a lawyer, and Brady, ever the protective father, had taken his daughter Rachel away for a while to give Marlena some much-needed peace. Rest in peace, the note read, a playful phrase that warmed Marlena's heart. She tucked the note into her pocket, grabbed her bag, and headed out into the humid Salem morning, determined to face whatever the day would bring. Marlena's departure from her home was more than a simple exit. It was a quiet declaration of her strength. At her age, she had seen countless trials in Salem, from family feuds to personal betrayals, yet she carried herself with grace. Little did she know, however, that the day's events would test the resilience of even the strongest souls in town. A dangerous plot at the DiMera mansion across town. In the imposing DiMera mansion, where shadows seemed to cling to the walls, Gabi Hernandez DiMera arrived with purpose. The air was thick with the scent of old money and older grudges. She was greeted by Tony DiMera, a man whose charm was as sharp as his ambition. Tony, lounging in a leather armchair with a glass of bourbon in hand, wasted no time. He leaned forward, his eyes glinting with mischief, and urged Gabi to devise a plan to seize control of the Kyriakis family's empire. The Kyriakis, he argued, were vulnerable. Cracks were forming in their once unbreakable unity, and this was their chance to strike. Gabi, however, hesitated. Her sharp mind was already racing, but she had no concrete plan. Tony, ever the strategist, was ready with one of his own. He had noticed something Gabi hadn't fully grasped. The Kyriakis family was unraveling from within. Xander and Philip, two of the family's most prominent figures, were at odds, their once brotherly bond fraying like an old rope. The reasons were unclear, shrouded in mystery, but Tony's instincts told him that someone, or something, had ignited this conflict. It's like someone flipped a switch, Gabi mused, her voice low, as she began to see the potential in Tony's words. Tony pressed further, sensing her reluctance. Someone knows why they're fighting, he said, his tone both cajoling and commanding. Gabi's loyalty to Xander, a man she'd once been close to, made her pause, but Tony's plan was too tempting to ignore. The Kyriakis' empire was a prize worth fighting for, and if internal strife was their weakness, Gabi was ready to exploit it. Business is business, she said coolly, brushing aside her personal reservations. With a determined nod, she turned and left the mansion, her heels clicking against the marble floor, each step a promise of the chaos she was about to unleash. Steve and Kayla's lunchtime worries. Meanwhile, in a modest office tucked away in downtown Salem, Steve Johnson sat across from his wife, Kayla, sharing a bowl of steaming seafood chowder. The Black Patch Investigations Office was a haven of sorts, filled with the comforting clutter of case files and family photos. But the mood was far from relaxed. Kayla, usually so composed, seemed distracted, her spoon pausing midway to her mouth as her thoughts wandered. She was worried about her brother-in-law, John, who had recently visited the office. His presence lingered in her mind, a reminder of the weight they all carried in Salem's tangled web of relationships. Steve, ever perceptive, caught the shift in her demeanor. Trying to lighten the mood, he shared some good news. Julie had recovered a cherished family necklace, an heirloom that had been lost to theft. Kayla's face softened as Steve recounted the story, though she admitted she didn't condone Doug's methods. "He did the right thing," she said, her voice tinged with reluctant admiration. But the moment of levity was fleeting. Kayla glanced at her watch, her brow furrowing. The hospital was calling her back, and the heat was unbearable. DiMera, in a cost-cutting move, had dialed back the air conditioning, leaving the staff sweltering. To make matters worse, Rita, the hospital's head of catering, was inexplicably tossing out fresh produce, adding to the chaos. Steve's concern for Kayla deepened. He could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the weight of her responsibilities pressing down on her. But Kayla's thoughts turned to Marlena. She confided in Steve about a troubling incident. Marlena had fainted in court, a moment that had shaken those who witnessed it. The news hit Steve hard. Marlena was a pillar of strength in Salem, and the thought of her faltering was unsettling. As Kayla gathered her things to return to the hospital, Steve's heart ached for her, but he knew she was too stubborn to slow down. Gabi's bold move and Steve's reluctance. No sooner had Kayla left than Gabi stormed into the Black Patch office, her presence like a gust of wind in the stuffy room. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. "I need you to investigate Xander and Philip," she declared, her voice sharp with determination. Steve's response was immediate and firm. "Absolutely not." He leaned back in his chair, his one good eye narrowing as he studied her. The Kyriakis family was too close to home. His brother-in-law, nephews, and even his daughter Stephanie, who was dating Alex and had a complicated history with Philip, were all tied to that clan. Personal cases, Steve knew, were a recipe for trouble. Gabi, undeterred, pushed back. "I call bullshit," she said, her tone brash but calculated. She laid out her case. The Kyriakises and DiMera were locked in a power struggle, and Gabi Sheik, her pride and joy, was caught in the crossfire. If she didn't act, she risked losing everything. Salem was already a battleground for the Titans and DiMera, she argued, and together they were a force of destruction. Steve listened, his jaw tight, as Gabi's words struck a chord. He couldn't deny the truth in her reasoning, but he wasn't ready to dive into the Kyriakis' mess. "What's in it for you?" he asked, his voice gruff. Gabi's answer was unflinching. Survival. The Kyriakises wouldn't let her keep Gabi Sheik without a fight, and she was done playing nice. Steve's resolve wavered. Against his better judgment, he agreed to take the case, knowing full well that digging into the Kyriakis family's secrets could unearth more than he bargained for. A town on the brink as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over Salem, the stage was set for a clash that could ripple through the town's most powerful families. Marlena, still haunted by her dream, carried on with quiet determination. Gabi, emboldened by Tony's plan and Steve's reluctant agreement, was ready to strike at the heart of the Kyriakis empire. And Steve, caught between loyalty to his family and the pull of a dangerous investigation, knew that the days ahead would test them all. In Salem, where secrets never stay buried for long, the heat of this July day was only the beginning. The Kyriakises and DiMera were on a collision course, and the fallout would leave no one untouched. For Marlena, Gabi, Steve, and the rest of Salem's residents, the question wasn't whether the storm would hit. It was whether they could weather it.